Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. We have two blended Scotch whiskeys, both from a long while ago. This is Grant's Family Reserve, but after I bought the bottle, it was renamed Triple Wood. Okay, so you might find a bottle like this one that says Family Reserve, or you might find the newer bottles that say Triple Wood because they age it in three types of wood: American oak, virgin oak, which means they've never put anything in it before, and ex bourbon barrels, bourbon refill. So they got ex bourbon barrels, American, just some other kind of, could have been corn whiskey or some used American whatever barrels, and virgin oak, never before used. So this, you can get it pretty cheap. I think I paid $23 for this handle. True story. Might have been 26. I'll check. It's got a emblem on there. It says established 1887, Glenfiddich. That's their malt whiskey distillery, 5 generations, still family owned. Um, they built a big grain whiskey distillery in 1987 called Gerban Distillery. But their single malt is Glenfiddich. You've heard of Glenfiddich. It's used in this. Okay. Now this one is White Horse, introduced in 1890, a year later, 1890. So Grant's Family Reserve came out in 1889 as their blended Scotch, and Glenfiddich, like I said, 1887. This is White Horse, 1890, and the people that owned Lagavulin Distillery, Lagavulin, decided to come out with a blended Scotch, and they came out with White Horse, and now it's owned by Diageo. And I put a website link below. Drewski Bruce, here's to you. Now, this bottle was $38.99, although Total Wine said they got it for $33.99. So I'd have to drive to the Woodlands, Texas to get it. All right. I bought this at Star on Louisiana Highway 49, southbound in Kenner, Louisiana. They're building a second Star, might be open already, on Louisiana Highway southbound, but further north up the highway. Williams Boulevard is what most everybody calls it. That's the local name for it. But the official name is Louisiana Highway 49. All right. Both have metal caps. There's no age statement on Grant's, so we don't know how long it's aged. We do know for White Horse because it says age 3 years right there on the bottle. I can get a good idea of Grant's by looking at Total Wine and More, or I could look at Walmart. They both sell it. Grant's. $24.99. Now, I bought it about 3 years ago, and I'm telling you, it was $23.99. Okay. Mathern's had a deal on it. So, what does it say right now? Grant's Triple Wood, like I said, they changed the name of it. I don't know why. Is aged in 3 distinct woods for a smoother taste. Awarded gold at the International Spirits Challenge and bronze at the International Wine and Spirits Competition in 2020. Product details: mild to complex. They're rating it complex. Delicate to rich, much more on the rich side. So they're claiming, and they're probably getting this from Grant's. I don't know if Total Wine and More developed this on their own, but they're claiming it's complex and quite rich. Food pairings: salty snacks, spicy, and tropical fruit. Okay. What other Grants do they sell? 15-year age, which is $72.99 for a regular bottle. So you can see the price jumps quite a bit. They make a lot of expensive Scotch whiskey now, but the one I have is their basic product. You understand? I figured I'd start at the bottom rung of the ladder and we could climb later. So you would imagine that the 15-year age is going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot more to it. All right. I saw. They don't put that chart on every product they make that they sell. That complex to mild and whatever to rich, basic to rich. Okay. The appearance, the grants. Yeah, the grants is a little lighter. But on video, you can't really tell. You have to have the light shining through the whiskey at you to see. Daylight has arrived out there. So we're talking about a $14 difference, just like yesterday afternoon and evening, $14 difference. Is it going to be $14 better? Now that has not really been my experience with White Horse. I like White Horse, and I would recommend White Horse. That's 2 points. The third point is, but I don't think it really justifies its price differential between other inexpensive blended Scotch whiskeys. And that's just how I feel about it. Diageo products tend to be a little higher priced, you understand, but they're not really any better. It's like Crown Royal. You know, people will say, oh, this other one is way better than Crown Royal, you know, rich and rare, like they'll say, rich and rare reserve. It's way better and it's way cheaper. Well, yeah, it is way cheaper, but to say it's way better, I think is a joke. It's probably a more reasonable statement would be that it's just as good as Crown Royal. You know, most of those blended Canadian whiskeys, it's not that they're way better than Crown Royal. It's that they're just as good, right? Or close to it, but probably just as good in most cases. So why are you paying more for Crown Royal? Well, you're buying the name. You're paying for the name. I mean, yeah, they'll say, oh, it's so much more carefully blended. Oh, it's, you know, our distillery, it is that, and everything, you know, but, well, they're probably doing a careful job at the other competing distilleries. Okay. They're probably being just as careful and being just as complex and everything. Okay. That's been my experience. And that's what's happening here. Same old thing. Smell like cereal grain, corn, barley. Could be other grains. Okay. But your flavor is going to come from your single malt, your single barley malt, which means what? A single whiskey? No. No, it means from a single distillery. It's all barley, though. So it could be a blend of different barley malts, blended scotches. In this case, Glenfiddich. Now, some of these blended scotches are using single malts, but from different distilleries: Highland, Lowland, Island, etc. That one smells like it's got a little peat and a little smoke. And so that's making me think it's the White Horse with that Lagavulin. Now, I've never bought Lagavulin. Um, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it. I got too many single malt scotches as it is, so wouldn't be happening anytime soon. I got bottles and bottles and bottles. It's going to take me a long time to go through them. Uh, there's no doubt about that. Lagavulin, let's see what the prices are. Total Wine, they usually have the cheapest prices. Not always, but usually. Lagavulin, 8-year age, $75.99. So you can get it as cheap as $76. 11-year Offerman edition, charred cask, $85.99. The 16-year age, $98.99. So now we're nearly $100. The Distiller's Edition, $115, $114.99. See, so, and that's just a sample of the Lagavulin distillery offerings. It's many more than that. But that's what Total Wine chose to carry, those 4 bottles. Oh, but that would keep you busy and low on money for quite a while. All right. All right. So on aroma, I'm thinking that's the White Horse. Now let's go with the taste. Cheers. Well, maybe I'm wrong because this one's evidencing quite a bit of smoke and peat, more than I had expected. A little bitey, a little honey topped white bread crust. If I say that a lot with these blended scotches, there's a reason for that. It's because I'm tasting that quite a bit. Okay, I don't just make these things up. I don't typically pay too much attention to the tasting notes that they'll give on the website for the whiskey because I can't ever remember what I read. I'm not memorizing it. You know what I mean? Like I don't write it down, so I don't memorize. And B, when I do taste stuff, it doesn't all. It rarely. I'm saying it backwards. It oftentimes does not match up. Like what they described is not what I'm tasting. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying it's not matching up. Stanley says, "Hi ho, silver away." Yep, there's Stanley, but he's also known as Clayton Moore. Stanley's nickname is Clayton Moore. All right. And Stanley's good friend is Jay Silverheels, but it's another story. Over here, we have honey top white bread crust, but no peat and no smoke. Which one do I prefer? I don't know. Guess they're both mighty nice. Mighty nice. But I have to say the winner is the $14 cheaper one because am I tasting a $14 difference? Honestly, I'm not. There's a difference. They don't taste the same. Is there any monetary difference between the two? I mean, I guess I could go back and forth for 20 minutes trying to figure that out. I don't guess that would accomplish much. Urjo said, hello, Urjo. I bought Grant's recently, and the bottle had a triangular base. Yeah, this one does. It's an edge. Well, it's kind of rounded on the handle, but you see, it's like a triangle there. Look, it's curved, but you see side, side, and side. But it's bent at the angles instead of sharp. No, I mean, and it's got little ridges on the side to help grab it. I grabbed it. And this one has a handle. So your preference, handle or ridges. think I'll go with the handle. Got a good grip on it. This one seemed like it could slip, but it's pretty grippable. I'm gonna make the whiskey. I'm gonna make all the whiskey. I'm gonna make the meat. I'm gonna make all the meats. All right. I think this is the White Horse. It is. I think I'm finally starting to nail down the flavor now that we end at the end of the taste challenge series. But oh well. I have Brandy coming up next. Yes, Mrs. Brandy Alexander coming up next. Coming up like a flower. Yep, coming up next. I mean, when this series is over, and it's a Classic Club Brandy, Classic Club. Yeah. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, 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 yeah. Can't find out when Classic Club was introduced. Really can't. Might have been 2005, but it might have been a long time before that. I know that other stores sell it beyond Total Wine and More, so it's not a Total Wine house brand. It's not a private label, but it may as well be because only a few other places had it. But they did have it. 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 And I know it's made. I know it's made by Sazerac, even though they use some made-up name on the label. Uh, and Could it be Paul Masson that didn't make the cut and they just bottled it as Classic Club? Oh, well, that's a strong possibility because they make a lot of Paul Masson at the Sazerac distilleries, namely Barton 1792 distillery. Like the girl told us on the tour, she said, half these barrels don't contain whiskey. She said, what's aging in these barrels? And I said, Brandy? She turned her head quick. Right. Like she was shocked. Well, I knew a little bit about that already. She said, yeah, it's Paul Masson Brandy. We age it for them. I said, how about that? And then since I've gone on that tour 6 years ago, they bought Paul Masson Brandy. They own the name outright. They own the whole recipe, the whole shebang, as my mother used to say, the whole shebang. Stanley says, we have a winner, the Grapes of Wrath. Yeah, the Grapes of Paul Masson. But whatever the case is with that Classic Club, it's not Paul Masson that they set aside as being especially fantastic to bottle, because why would they take that and then sell it for such a low price? It's not their best cut. It's probably their, barrels that didn't quite pan out. But I don't know that. That's certainly just speculation. It could be totally brandy made specifically for those bottles only. Okay. Like I'll say Hartley, that's we don't know. It's just all we know about Hartley is that it's got flavoring added, as it says on the bottle label. And secondly, it's made with Italian brandy. Tells you right there. Didn't say Italian brandy, it said made with Italian brandy. Okay. Like Tuaca, another brand that they own. Tuaca, that's that brandy liqueur, which is very popular and too expensive for me to buy. I had a little sample of it in little airplane bottles. It was nice. Tasted kind of like Hartley. Okay, but better. Yeah, so White Horse is nice. Red beans and rice, they're very nice. Heat order twice. Yeah, so it's nice. Kind of like Louisiana State University winning the national championship in baseball last night. That was very nice. And somebody was telling me, you doubted them. You doubted them. I said, well, who wouldn't have doubted it after what happened Sunday? I mean, you don't know. You hope. You're hopeful, but you don't know what's going to happen. You're just saying, well, maybe they can win now. When it started off, they were losing 2-0. So it's not like you're losing and that's going to make you confident. But then they took over the game and took took Florida apart, 18-4. So they paid them back. It's baseball. Baseball's like the Electoral College. Each game is its own game, right? So it's not like the Electoral College in that different games are worth different points. That's, of course, not a good comparison. But it's like the Electoral College in the sense that it doesn't matter what the score is inside that game. It's that you have to win 2 out of 3. In this case, 2 out of 3. So you win it. It's not the popular vote. It's not like, well, the first game was 4-2 or whatever it was, and then the second game was 25-4, and then the third game was 18-4. So we add up all the points and you win because you got the most points in the 3 games. No. Each game is a separate entity. Like each state is supposed to be a separate entity in the United States. So what a lot of people misunderstand or refuse to understand when they talk about the Electoral College, they'll say, we need to have a popular vote. And my answer to them is, no, we don't. We are not a unitary state. It's the United States of America. It's 50 different states. It's not the United States of America. And I don't know why they probably just never bothered to think. You say think. What does that mean when you think? That means you think about things? Right. Okay. You have to win a majority of the state elections. All right. Which is what? 270 points. Each state is worth a number of points. So that's pretty good. That grants is pretty good. When I first tried it, it tasted kind of rough and nasty in some ways. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I wasn't too thrilled with it, but it's grown on me. I started to appreciate grants. And 2 years ago, I wouldn't have said that. I'd have said, that stuff, get it out of my face, and so forth. But now I'm really starting to like it. Still got half the bottle left. So how you like it? It's going to be fun in the sun. Okay. Magnum Johnson says, I'm drinking Coors Light right now. That's a good thing to drink. Urjo says, the cities always dominate over the farmlands. Well, they got more people. Stanley says, maybe we are a collection of little state-based countries. And it's a collection of states. And the way they came up with the Electoral College was to protect the integrity of the states. That was a compromise. Some people are aloof to that concept of compromise. They're dictatorial and tyrannical in their mindset. So everybody has to think their way, you see. When you run across people that, if they talk like a tyrant and they make expressions like a totalitarian and the ideas they express are totalitarian, you may safely assume that the person has a totalitarian mindset. Okay. The evidence is explicit in that sense. Now, sometimes they're not that way. They're just ignorant, and ignorance can be solved by education. So when they made the United States Constitution in 1787, the big states like New York and Virginia, of course, say, oh, well, naturally, we'll just count all the votes and whoever wins, wins. Well, yeah, because then they could dominate it. But little states like Delaware and Rhode Island said, hold on a minute, time out. We don't have many people. Our votes won't even count, basically. And they were like, oh, well, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you little non-important areas. And they said, well, we won't join it. Then we won't join the Constitution. We don't want any part of it. We don't want to be tyrannized by the big states. But back then, people being more reasonable said, well, let's compromise then. To protect the little states, we'll have an electoral college where each state gets a minimum of 3 votes. You can never get less than 3 points per state. You get 1 point for every senator. For every representative, excuse me. That's based on population. So Rhode Island might only get 1 point based on population because they got less people in most cities. Okay, but fine. But then in Alaska too, the whole Alaska population would be less than New Orleans metro area. Okay. But you always get at least 2 points for a senator. Every state gets 2 senators, right? Regardless of how California, as big as they are, California's got more population than most countries. But they only get 2 votes for Senate. 2 senators. They only get 2 senators, which counts as 2 points in the Electoral College. In Little Rhode Island gets 2 points and gets 2 senators. See, that balances out. Now, in the popular side, California got way more people, so they get way more votes for population. I don't know how many electoral votes they get. I think it's something like 38 for population. I could be wrong. It's high. It's high, high, high. And for Texas is very high, and Florida is very high, New York is very high, and so forth, because they got a lot of people. Wyoming, Alaska, Rhode Island, the points are low because they don't have too many people. So it wouldn't make sense for them to have. So it would be wrong either way. If every state had the same amount of points, it wouldn't be fair to the big states. That would make the votes in Rhode Island count more heavily than the votes in California, which would not be fair. But to flip it around the other way, using the popular side of the equation, the big states get a lot more votes on that end because they got more people. And it works out. See, but the people that will rant and rave about the Electoral College are doing that because they either A, don't understand the concept and never bothered to learn about it, or B, they're mad because they lost and they don't care about fairness and they don't care about population. They don't care about federations or balance of power. They want power without limit, resting solely on the use of force is what they want. You say, but that sounds like communism. Exactly. Okay. And if you tore open their shirt, they probably got a hammer and sickle. It's probably not a tattoo. It's probably like in the Omen. It's like they were born with it. It's they were born with it. Oh yes. All right. Well, anyway, the winner, I'm gonna have to say, all things considered, like we just on a side note talk about the Electoral College. All things considered, I wish there were more city states like Singapore or the Vatican City, says Urjo. Right. We need more city states. Don't forget about Monaco. All right. They had some city states in Germany, but they're not independent countries. They used to be until 1866. But they were city states. Bremen, Hamburg. It was a city, but they had their own army, their own police, their own flag, their own rulers. Remember Venice, the city that's out in the water? They had their own president, the Doge. They had their own army, navy, mainly navy, and they had their own empire. They ruled other areas around the world, mostly in Europe and all the way even into the Black Sea. But they at one, at certain points, but they were a city state. It was a state, but it was a city. You know what I'm saying? Take a shot, Hoss. Yeah, I already took shots. Okay. What's in the bottles? Grants. I'm going to say Grants is the winner. But White Horse is not really the loser. Well, how can this be the winner and this is not really the loser? I'll tell you how. Grants is the winner by virtue of price. You're not losing much on the quality, but you're paying $15 less, $14 to $15 less. And I'm happy with that. And that Glenfiddich single malt that they're putting in it is mighty nice. Now, on the other hand, White Horse cannot be a loser because the flavor is delicious and the Lagavulin single malt that they're using is mighty fine also. So basically, it's to a large extent, not totally, but to a large extent, this is an approach conflict, which means either choice you make is a winner. Approach. You want to approach or grab at each choice. There's no downside to it. The only downside is the price. There is a difference in price, in this case about $14 to $15, and I think you can grasp that concept. So you would ask me, what is the one I should buy? My answer would be both. Buy both. I'll have to try White Horse. I recommend that. All right, well, that's it. On with the day. There's daylight outside. That's why we call it Dawn Busters, because we're bringing in the dawn with a competition.